If you're into gardening, you've probably heard of Michael Perry, also known as Mr Plant Geek. He's appeared on ITV's This Morning and Steph's Packed Lunch on Channel 4, and he's an award-winning columnist and writer, having published his debut book on unusual plants last year. But what you might not know is that he's also an advocate for taking control of your own health and well-being. After a health scare in early 2024, he decided to expand his knowledge and interest into alternative therapies and habits such as grounding, breathwork, and even TRE therapy. This is the first time he's talking about his new alignment with well-being. And he shares with us some of his daily practices that nourish what he calls his mind, body, and soul. So I know you've gone to the gym today. What else have you done to care for your well-being as part of your routine?
Today, well, I'm really aware at the moment. I've had like a busy few days and kind of like sometimes I haven't quite got this life-work balance correct, but I feel it. And I feel like my body, I call it my MBS, my mind, body, and soul, is a bit better at letting me know, or no. I'm better at listening to it now. Yeah. And so I really knew this morning because I needed to pack to go away later today as well. And I kind of like was just all a bit like doing, sometimes when you're doing so many things at once and you're kind of just really lost in doing those things and just forget yourself. And so before I went to the gym, even though the gym is part of Wellbeing, I just sat outside on my cocoon chair with, a chamomile tea because I'm not drinking caffeine now because that really makes you wobbly everywhere. And yeah, it was just like, this is a period of quiet sort of thing. I must admit it's still hard to do that, leaving your phone indoors, but you can also use your phone at a different speed and kind of think of it in a different way sort of thing. So yeah, but definitely kind of taking myself out of that kind of like rushing around moment and kind of like, must do this, kind of like I felt compelled to have that piece of quiet. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
With all of this new direction that you've taken, do you think this is the best that you've felt at the moment in terms of your health, well-being, fitness and stuff like that?
Oh, that's such a good question. I would say it's hard to answer because I feel like it sounds so dramatic sometimes, but I feel like a different person now in a way that I am like in some ways being forced to listen to my body and what it needs to slow down here and there. But I feel thankful for being a different person at the same time. So I don't see the problem with that. So I feel like kind of like in summary, that really puts me in the best place for my well-being and being transformed into this different person that is then aware of more different things. That doesn't mean I've got, a complete calm. There's still things that I'm a bit like, oh, this is not quite right, or that's not quite right. But my body, my soul, my MBS is giving me the chance to put those things right. And also I was thinking about this the other day, you're always kind of like thinking like, I need to get to this point where I feel perfect when I get there and like, this needs to be sorted and I need to feel more relaxed with this and that and that. But do we ever really get to perfection in life? And what to do when you get there? Do you know what I mean? And I always feel like this, even when people have got 3-year plans, 5-year plans, it's like, it's about the journey and feeling what happens on the way as well. So like, and also what is perfection anyway, So yeah. And so I feel like, yeah, life is different to before, but I feel thankful that I'm being informed.
Yeah,
really.
So this all comes about as earlier this year, I remember receiving a message from you saying I'm in hospital. And I was panicked. So I can't imagine how you must have been feeling. You had quite a sudden health scare. Can you describe what happened?
Yeah, well, it's really weird. Sometimes things really happen that you almost can't describe until maybe many years down the line. Mm-hmm. So I'll do best I can.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess now it was like some sort of real like alarm went off, or kind of like panic attack maybe, that just happened in an evening. Yeah. And just put me into a really kind of like strange state that was almost like, I think my body kind of like being so shocked in this moment of being in the panic attack that it was then locked into this like shock status, as it were. So like you're kind of like stuck in fight or flight sort of thing. So your body is kind of never had a feeling like this before. So it's kind of then keeping you in this protected zone. And I just, and the first week was just really really bizarre because obviously your body is trying to protect you. So it's like putting you in this zone. And so like your vision is kind of not necessarily so clear, and you don't feel like you can really hear things properly, and kind of like you don't feel like you're really in the room. And I've since learned this is kind of like almost like a thing called derealization, where you kind of feel a bit outside of your body and stuff. And that was kind of like really prominent. And I remember having really dark thoughts as well. And this was something I hadn't ever had before. And it was just really the strangest like week to 10 days, because like, you know, my body was in this kind of like complete panic and kind of like stuck in that moment. And there was also, I had no concept of time. And in that moment, I really wasn't sure when I could work again. It was really so bizarre, honestly. And so it's very hard, this stuff, because you never really get it diagnosed accurately, because they're all different, like maybe mental health things or things to do with your nervous system. And so that can be frustrating. And they gave me some propranolol, I think it was. And I'm not really like, I don't want to be reliant on any sort of tablet. And I'm sometimes quite aware and kind of like constructive as well, and like positive, and I want to work through something. So I felt I had the tools in myself anyway, sort of thing. And it was really since then to today, because I still don't feel entirely normal sometimes, but really that whole journey of like trying to soothe your parasympathetic nervous system in order to let it know that you are kind of good and safe again. But I think all of this, you know, regardless of however it came on or whatever happened, I think that was just a kind of like an alarm call, really, that your body, I don't know, your MBS almost, because the whole package just kind of lets you know. And yeah, there's points. And many people I've spoken to since have had these kind of like realization moments and stuff. And when they have maybe been doing a little bit too much or kind of like losing themselves a bit, and obviously you would wish it didn't happen, but I feel thankful that it did, because it gave me this kind of heightened awareness that I now have been working on for many months. And yeah, and I don't feel necessarily the way I want to feel, but at the same time, I don't want to get too caught up in that, because you need to let your body know that you're okay with how you are in order to let your MBS relax with that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you didn't actually get a confirmed diagnosis of?
It was pretty much kind of the acute stress reaction.
Okay.
In that kind of like period of like first 2 to 3 weeks sort of thing, where your body really is kind of stuck in this kind of like shock, kind of like status as well. And it was really, you just didn't feel like you were here. It was really, and I remember like writing a sort of journal, because it was very like really frustrating to kind of not be, you know, in a real life sort of thing. It's a very hard thing to describe. Yeah, and just acute stress reaction. And kind of since then I've learned more about the different things, and kind of like, and I feel like sometimes the thing that kind of like might kick in every so often when I feel a little bit sort of like I maybe overdone it, is kind of that almost derealization, which kind of when you just feel like in a little bit of a dream world sort of thing. But it's also about how you let your mind kind of accept that as well, because actually you can kind of twist it on yourself, and like being in that kind of like dream mode where you're not connected, kind of like maybe your body just kind of having that time out sort of thing as well. Because someone said to me, this brilliant analogy, is that the right word?
Yeah.
I think so. About like monkeys or like a big gorilla in the rainforest, right? That like when they're not taking action or like looking for food or playing and stuff, they're kind of just like this in a rest mode.
Yeah.
And kind of maybe as humans, when we're not rushing around doing all this, we should be like this. Maybe that's okay, you know?
Yeah.
And this is our like natural resting, you know, to not be doing anything, to feel disconnected and maybe like just in our own little zone sort of thing. So yeah, so trying to kind of like spin those things as a positive, because like, you know, for many months you're kind of like, oh, I just don't feel normal. And it's kind of like a weird thing to carry around with you. And of course, nobody else knows, because everything looks normal. You know what I mean? It's exactly the same. So yeah, it's just, the strangest thing. But it has, you know, propelled me into all of the self-care that I now do, and sort of be more aware. And certainly I wouldn't want to be, I'm much more aware of kind of balance and kind of like, not doing too much. And also when you're doing too much, are you necessarily savoring what you're doing as well? You know, so so I think, it's a good thing. I said that out loud. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I do agree with you there. I feel like when you do a lot, it feels like time just whizzes by and you aren't really present and mindful.
And this is happening for a lot of people, you
Yeah.
know, on some level too.
Yeah, I think so. Would you equate what happened to you to burnout?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I said to you earlier about like how it actually happened. I think it's one of those things you won't understand until many years down the line. And I think maybe, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, potentially, but of course, a lot of you don't want to admit that to yourself as well. I think that's a lot of the problem with a lot of this. I think when you do accept it, you're kind of like sort of in it and you're not denying it anymore. So you're kind of embracing it. And that is the point where you do start to improve in a way. So yeah, maybe so. I think maybe I'm still not had that realization maybe sort of thing. And it's very hard because I feel like, you know, especially like last few weeks, a lot of different things happening. I was like, whoa, this is, you know, and I actually cancelled a trip early, was it like the end of October, to kind of like just buy myself a bit more kind of like time back, you know, and ground time sort of thing. So I felt that was important, and I would never have done that before.
I know, good for you.
I'm so shocked.
I am a bit. No, good for you.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's that balance really. But it's also hard, like when you enjoy life and the stuff that you do, it's like, but then do less of it? What? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think looking back earlier this year, if you knew what was happening to you, do you think you would have been less panicked about it?
I'm not sure, because I guess regardless of whatever it was, physical and mentally at the time, it was still then indicating a change in speed, which would then panic you as well, because like also another layer of this is when you're freelance as well. When you're freelance, it's something you can't work, and you're kind of in this state where you've got no idea even like when you're going to recover or how you're going to recover. And it's really, as a freelancer, that is quite a awkward spot to be in, sort of thing. So yeah, I think in terms of that, I would have been a bit like, oh my gosh, what to do.
I think that's really important actually, because a lot of freelancers, you have co-working spaces and things like that, but a lot of freelancers work alone. And so you're not going into an office and regularly spending time. I know you work with a lot of different people, but you're not regularly spending time with the same people who can sort of say to you, are you doing a bit too much?
Yeah, true. Yeah, actually. Yeah. And it's weird because like, you just, I don't know, people would say that and it's just like, well, you're just doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're doing it, you're enjoying it. And it's kind of really hard to pace that when it's, I don't know. Yeah, and I'm not there yet, I must admit. So, yeah.
It's a process.
Definitely.
You had that moment where you were in hospital and then the weeks following kind of rehabilitating. What changed in the months following regarding how you approach your well-being?
Well, I really, because, you know, not even joking about, I love a project, you know, I like to be constructive. And if I see a problem, I want to work around it. And so the minute and a lot of people have been surprised at how, you know, I don't know how quickly it would have been, but like how efficiently I've kind of like, you know, attacked this. Sounds like an awful word to use, but I'm going to leave it there. So I was like, right, okay, well, I'm like stuck in fight or flight. My parasympathetic nervous system needs soothing. Need to work on my vagus nerve, you know, that obviously runs all the way through the body as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to eat really well. Obviously meditate, get yourself out of your brain, kind of start to get to know your body as well. Like breathing to calm the body, to also, you know, breathing like really deeply in the diaphragm is really good for digestion and so many different things that people don't realize. I'm going to pull out lots of weird little strands here for you, but also thinking then about grounding, you know. So in a balcony here in London, I put it some turf and it really worked.
Yeah. You
know, to feel that. Cutting out caffeine, because this can really make you fly, and cut out alcohol. I was never really drinking so much anyway. Other things like facial massage is really good because all the nerve endings kind of end in your face as well. So this and different, you know, obviously, you know, dancing around on YouTube for days, but this is good stuff there as well. So all these things that just kind of soothe your nervous system and kind of, you got to let it know that you're safe again. And, you know, even in day-to-day life, we should be doing that anyway. If you know what I mean? So yeah, I kind of like really, just really took it on as a project, because I was in a state that it was awful to be in. I had to do something. There was nothing else I could do. And I didn't see that a tablet or medication was going to make it right. So yeah, I really just went for it, really. It was Project, what do you call it? Michael 2.0.
I love it. So where did you kind of get all the information to be able to do those things? Where did you learn all this?
Yeah, well, this is what's really hard when you kind of go to the doctors, because like I got, maybe on the second visit, I got this acute stress reaction diagnosis, but still they kind of like just, I don't know, what is it? You just need to relax or take some time off. They don't go that extra mile of like, well, it can be really useful if you get into soothing your parasympathetic nervous system, which then this, and here's some info. They kind of don't really give you the tools, holistic tools, if you know what I mean, which is a real shame, because it could reduce the visits to them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Hello. So I kind of really just, I don't know. It's really just the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. YouTube, learning about the vagus nerve, parasympathetic nervous system, and then just all of the things that then help that and complement that, really. And that was, teaching myself all of this stuff, really. And being really lucky to be near a lot of lovely open space and Kew Gardens, just a couple of minutes away, is then, realizing, I always, I work with plants, so I always knew plants were good for us. But kind of at that point, it's like, okay, I really need your help now. Yeah. And I remember, kind of like, being in the trees, being at Kew, but also like having the plants on the balcony, the lawn as well. I remember, there was a particular little pelargonium, and I was just like, when my vision was really not working, I was like just trying to focus on the flower and really kind of like get to know it. And part of this is like, grounding as well, when you kind of like, look at free things, touch free things, hear free things as well. So yeah, so plants were a big part of that too. And of course, I did a bit of like makeover in my apartment here, and really kind of consolidated a lot of the plants into bigger containers, which gives a nice kind of jungly vibe as well, which is pretty cool. So
do you almost feel like, because obviously we're in a city, there are green spaces here, but it's an urban environment.
Yeah.
Do you think you're kind of able to trick your mind into believing you're in a calmer space?
I know. It really felt like, oh no, you're going through this, but you only just moved to London a year ago. It's like, it felt like the worst timing ever, sort of thing. But then people in cities can still connect with nature. Do you know what I mean? Like I say, Kew Gardens, Richmond, Chiswick, lots of green space. You see a lot of trees from here. This is not necessarily some big urban Tokyo landscape, if you know what I mean. So there's a lot of green and open space. But like, I think with the grounding, like here, feeling the grass beneath my feet sort of started to trick my brain a bit. So because that is how you need to do grounding, because not everyone can be at ground level, if you know what I mean. So
going back to those activities that you talked about, the meditating, the grounding, which of those do you think helped you most?
Oh, I don't know, because the thing is with any of this stuff, I don't know, you might say different, but I don't feel like you ever see any difference immediate. But I think they need to be part of a portfolio. Yeah. And if you take them out, you probably won't progress as well. But when they're there, you almost don't notice the effect each thing is having. So it's really hard to answer. Yeah. But I would say, like, a meditation is good, because that is the thing literally slowing you down, taking you out of life, taking you out of your mind as well. So I'd say I would recommend that to anyone, really. Like grounding, because what this gave me is, because it was interfered with my nervous system. And then when I then went back to do a lot of the things I'd done before, I then was like in some really nervous kind of like state to then, can I still do this? Can I still fly to Germany? Can I still present to this audience and stuff? And it was like, put so many different doubts in my head that I'd never had before, which was really quite strange for me. And because, I would have had that feeling when I was like 18, 19, but then built up so many years of like getting the confidence. And suddenly you're like, what? Oh, I'm really nervous about this. What? And that nervousness, like, kind of like in your body as well, physically, which was such a new sensation for me too. So really, I would say in a very practical sense, I think that's where something like deep breathing can help you on the spot, sort of thing, or kind of like sort of grounding a little bit, or just kind of like, I don't know, just connecting with yourself, or even there was when I went to do some presentation, I was like just holding my fingers like this, which had no kind of meaning or anything, but it's just kind of given something that you're focusing on, sort of thing, that takes you out of what you're thinking in that situation. So yeah, just little things like that do have that immediate kind of like come down effect. But I think a lot of the other things are part of a wider portfolio, which is really important to have. And yeah, you don't notice the difference it makes when you're doing it, but when you stop doing it, you kind of know it. Yeah.
And you obviously still travel a fair amount. Do you take these kind of rituals with you when you're traveling?
As much as I can. Yeah, definitely. But it's like I say, I feel like sometimes you do fall off the wagon with it a bit, and then you're suddenly feeling a bit like, oh, I feel a bit, and then you're like, oh yeah, because I didn't do this or this. And so yeah, it kind of becomes something that is more, hopefully becomes a habit here and there, because you get to know that not that you can't live without it, that sounds really dramatic, but that you benefit from it. Yeah.
When you do fall out of that rhythm, is it easy to get back into it?
I would say yes and no, because it's always very easy to find time to do other stuff. You know, why is it always so hard to stop and do those things, isn't it? And so it's part of, kind of like redressing that balance a little bit. And, you know, I was this morning, actually, when I was outside, I did have like a cup of tea and like this and that. And I did do, there's a really nice breathing exercise, just a random YouTube video, which most of them are, which is like 20 minutes. And it's doing 4, 7, 8. And so you're breathing in for 4, you're holding it for 7, and then breathing out for 8. And I actually did that little 20-minute session there. So that was a real moment within. So actually, as something else, it's really easy to be hard on yourself, because I'm thinking about that half an hour that I was outside, and I'm kind of like, oh, but I then was on my phone a little bit and I was drinking the tea. But then also, I completely forgot that I did this 20-minute of breathing as well. So kind of like, things will never be perfect as well. And I think that's something to remember too, because like, you're not going to have this perfect day where you do meditate and you do this, but do what you can. I think that is the key as well, because we spend too much time in life kind of beating ourselves up for the stuff we didn't do, and we completely forget the stuff we did do. And I literally just did it there in front of you.
So if you could go back prior to this event earlier in the year and tell the 2023 version of yourself something that would help prevent this health scare, what would you say? Yeah.
Do you know you can actually... No, I don't know if that would help in this instance. Well, it might do, because it might make you feel better. But I was talking to someone about, I got a really good hypnotherapist. She's helped me with many things over the years, like public speaking, kind of like sports events as well and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I've had a few calls with her more recently, and there was one thing, I'm telling you this, even though it's not necessarily relevant, how you can deal with stuff like from your childhood and stuff. And I'm thinking about this when you said about 2023 kind of picture. You actually pull out a picture of yourself from that age and talk to your child in that time of what would have been going through. And then also like pick one out of like after that moment, and then kind of like soothe that of what did happen, which is really interesting, because you could do that with a picture of your 2023 self and like kind of like just explore and see what you would like to let them know. And I would be, I don't know, just be careful of the balance of stuff and kind of like, although it's very strange, because I think, like, I don't know about you, but I think we've all got instincts. And you know, when people talk about people being psychic or mediums and stuff, I think we've all got this ability actually, but we just need to kind of just slow down in ourselves to do that, because instinctively we usually know what is right. We always know what is right. And you can almost even sometimes just slow down and let your body do it for you sometimes. Like, I don't know, maybe there's all these books and magazines on the table, and I'm probably, if I just relax, I'm probably going to reach for the one that is most relevant or that I need at that moment. And it's really interesting what the MBS can do as well. So that would be, my advice to myself would be like, just slow down and trust the instincts more, because I do feel like there was a couple of moments where, if I think back, I don't know, something was trying to let me know. And I was kind of like, just hearing something that was like, oh, this feels a bit much, you know, something there and there. Yeah, so I feel like, MBS is clever. Do you know what I mean? You just got to listen to it. I don't know why we spend so much time not listening to it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the
We
thing.
always think we know best.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if we're given the knowledge that we need in order to be able to access that kind of intuition.
No, true. It's always seen as woo-woo.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly. Or like alternative medicine.
Why is it alternative? Why?
Yeah, it should be the norm, really. Well,
yeah.
well, I mean, that leads me on to my next question. Do you think something needs to change in the way that adults approach our own healthcare?
Yeah, I don't know.
Instead of,
what, individually, or how they're taught to?
I guess both. Like, because whenever you have, say, for example, a mental health problem, I personally don't think that there's enough attention on mental health or availability for attention on mental health within our current healthcare system. So do we need to be able to access other tools in order to help ourselves really than going to a kind of to a GP?
Yeah, no, totally. I don't know. It's like stuff you might need to be taught in school then in that way.
I think so.
Yeah. Like self-care classes.
Yeah.
Really, isn't it?
Yeah, because isn't it a shame that, the internet is a free and wonderful thing, but isn't it a shame that we have to go to the internet to do our own research?
Yeah, no, totally. And I've been scratching around trying to pull it all together myself over the last 6 months. Yeah, definitely. But it's hard because then I'm thinking, would that work? Because then it's not commercialized. But then they still commercialize some of these alternative things anyway, don't they? So,
yeah, that's true.
But it's just mad that they don't, because it would really ease the pressure on, medical care. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's been really lovely. Well, not lovely. I mean, obviously it was a really concerning time, but it's lovely to hear how you've come out of it and you're making really positive changes. With
actually, that's the thing. Like, we need to flip our minds, because we can see it as lovely. Because if we see everything as negative all the time, we keep telling our brains that those things shouldn't happen. Yeah. So it's, it is lovely that I had this experience.
Yeah.
Let's own it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for, exploring your story with me and hopefully giving our listeners something to learn, something to explore more on the internet if they can. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Well, excellent questions that really helped me to, talk about this for the first time as well, which has been amazing. And I think what you're doing with this whole initiative is pulling together a lot of this stuff that is all around on the internet into something that's concise and friendly and helpful for people as well. So, yeah, well done you.
Oh, thank you for the compliment.